On any given year in the last 7 years, the music industry has represented between $20 and $30 billion of annual revenue. $30 billion is not a lot of money for an industry that everyone in the world is aware of. Like the garlic industry makes more money, home sellers like people on Etsy, Netflix as one company has beat the recorded music industry since its inception. It's important to understand why that is. Why is it that the music industry makes so little money, the recorded music industry anyways? The modern record industry, the way they do their deals, the way they think about intellectual property, and the way they think about locking up an artist's likeness and all of their works and owning it, it started in the 1950s. Italian mafia owned the jukebox industry, and they also owned the nightclub industry. So they would have lots of artist records being played, and they would have lots of artists playing on their stages. In the 1950s, an ASCAP representative walked into Morris Levy, who's like an affiliate of the Italian mob, and walked into his nightclub and said, "You owe us money for all of these records, these songs that you're playing, the underlying compositions, we own them, and you owe a royalty to us and these artists." And Morris Levy thought to himself, this generates a lot of money and they have a legal right to come get it from me. And so what he did was he started illegally putting his name on the underlying compositions of artist songs who would come through his nightclub. So he started cutting deals with all of these artists. He would put himself on the writers, and he would sign a deal that basically gives him a majority of the revenue from their writer's share. And he would be their publisher, which also gets him part of that money. And then he started putting out these records and paying radio DJs to spin them so that they seemed like they were more popular than they actually were. Not only was he playing this trick on artists, he was playing it on the public by convincing them that something was more popular than it actually had gotten yet. Later, so many of the indie labels and even the majors were doing this practice that ultimately Congress outlawed payola, which is what it was called, pay for play. The reason they could do that is because radio airwaves are public property, they're public. They can't do that, however, on cable television networks, any other private network that isn't public property. So payola is only illegal on radio stations. Even still, in the 1980s, all they did to get around payola was they just put a middleman in between. And these were called IRPs, or independent radio promoters. Basically a whole industry or a syndicate, like a literal mob of guys sprang up that controlled all the radio territories in the United States, and they would basically accept money from the label and then use that money themselves to go petition radio DJs. So the labels weren't paying radio DJs directly, they were paying these independent radio promoters, led by Joe Iskro and a number of other very seedy people who ended up serving time, not just for the crime of payola, but for other crimes as well. And so every major label in the 1980s was using these IRPs to basically funnel cash to radio DJs to pretend things were more popular than they actually were. Now compare that to today and ask yourself, has that really changed? To this day, labels are still signing up as much intellectual property as they can and owning as much of it as they can so that they benefit from the eventual popularity of these artists and their works. The only thing that's different is that they don't put their name on the writer's credits anymore. They just take publisher share, or they sign a deal to get most of the revenue from the artists. And so the reason that this industry, in my opinion, has failed to grow beyond this 30 billion mark, and it suffered so dramatically during the rise of the internet and all of these things, it just goes back to the fact that it's not a normal industry. We don't sell products in this industry. We lock up intellectual property. Our entire industry is government mandated. Who owns these legal contracts that give ownership of certain rights over intellectual property is who makes all the money. And that's kind of the game everyone is playing. But in the meantime, there are artists who have 1 million followers on social media. And if you went to any entrepreneur, any online business, and you said, okay, this person has 1 million followers, how much should they be making in revenue? It would be far more than those artists actually make. More even than the artists plus their labels make off of that audience. And the reason is that the industry never arose to take note of the fact that this person has outsized influence over their audience, and we could be selling products to that audience and not even talking about the intellectual property. Like if you go to any record label in the world and you look at the agencies that are servicing their marketing, or the internal teams that are servicing their marketing, none of them are focused on generating revenue from the audience that the artist has. They're all focused on getting the streaming numbers up, getting the likes and follows up, getting the view counts up, and charting, and doing things that appear popular, because the whole goal is to appear like the most popular that you possibly can, so that you can benefit off of the windfall of attention that comes through those channels where you own all of the intellectual property. But if I see, anyone who has 500,000 subscribers who are engaged, who love this entity, I'm thinking, what can that person offer to them that they would be willing to purchase, either to support their career and support the content that they keep making, or to get value from the purchase? If you have 500,000 followers, they're all going to buy a t-shirt in the next 6 months. Should it be from you, or should it be from some other entity? Probably it should be from you. And so let's just take that very simple sliver of a model right there and kind of calculate it out. If you have 500,000 people, chances are you can convert 4% of them into your email subscribers within 3 weeks. You just have to set up a cool offer, make it to them, make it very visible, and they will all sign up. So you can at least get 20,000. Once you have 20,000 email subscribers, if you were to convert 10% of them into customers, that would be 2,000 sales. In that event, right, you generate 2,000 customers. But the lifetime value of a customer is not the $9 profit you make off of the t-shirt. It's probably more like $30, $40, $100, $200, depending on how good your follow-up marketing is. Over a year's time or 2 years' time, those 2,000 customers could become not worth $18,000, but if it's 100, you could say $200,000. And so when I look at the music industry, I see the opportunity of what the music industry could be. And the main way that I see it getting there is to give indie artists the skills that online business owners have. Because what's one revenue channel that labels don't touch? Merchandise and one-to-one sales. They only care about the intellectual property, and that's a massive shortcoming for them because they don't assume that the next $180 billion in the music industry is going to come from those kinds of sales. The problem is that a lot of artists go to the negotiation table with a very poor control of how they're going to make revenue. And so they sign these horrible, awful deals, like all of them do it, and then later have to try to sue to get out of the deal. It's what keeps this industry poor. If you could show those artists, hey, you can make several, $100,000 or $1 million a year off of these operations with just a 500,000 person audience. You don't need the millions and millions and millions. And it's all profit that you control that goes directly to you and that no one's taking a slice of except maybe your manager. Then you give them leverage to not have to go with record deals. And we've done this multiple times. There's many indies in our community and in our team who have now turned down record deals because they have the exact leverage I'm talking about, because they make money by themselves. So we can actually stop those horrible deals from going down if we can teach more independent artists and even major label signed artists how to generate their own leverage and generate their own revenue that outpaces what the record label can get them. The goal being that we want people to take less deals because they truly have a better opportunity in front of them in themselves. If we can give them those skills, then they can actually start outperforming major labels, which are responsible for a majority of that $30 billion a year. Not only that, they can do it more profitably. They can take home more of that revenue, which allows them to reinvest and keep growing. So that would kind of choke out this business model of being incredibly unfair to artists and taking advantage of them when they're at the weakest point in their career to then lock up the revenue potential of that artist. Because the real sad part of that is that 99% of the artists they do that to fail, and they're left in debt to the record label with all of their master recordings owned by the record label and almost no permission to continue their career thereafter. The rest of them could make millions of dollars a year if they weren't fed that inappropriate business model of trying to get everyone and their mother to like it. So when I look at the music industry, I don't see an opportunity to steal market share away from the existing regime, $30 billion of impact. I see the existing regime and say, these are the inefficiencies and this is the hole that I see. And I can actually empower artists, individuals to change the industry, which represents $130 billion of missed opportunity in my view. And so we do that by having three areas of our business. We have a training side, which teaches artists those kinds of skills that empower them, that allow them to start thinking about themselves as a business. And then we have Indie Founder, which is our one-on-one coaching side, walking an artist through those skills, verifying them, refining them until we really feel confident that they could do this entirely on their own or even teach others how to do it. And then we have the third side, Indie X, where we take artists who might already be in a bad deal, might already, have gone through the ringer with it, but they have an audience, and then we start building them their own revenue channel that allows them to leave their booking agent agent, leave their publisher, leave their major label, then we can truly make X-Men. And so we've been able to get artists to leave bad deals. We've been able to get artists to never make bad deals in the first place by building up their own business. And that's sort of a done for you approach where it's like, you've already got the audience, let's build this for you so that you can see the value in it and then want it more than you actually want whatever the label's promising you. And so that's why we exist. And that's why I don't go after a different opportunity, because I know artists and I know this industry really well. And it's all I've been fascinated by for almost my entire life. So I have a lot of inbuilt knowledge. And if I were to go to another industry and teach them about what I know, I would say I'd be wasting a lot of that which I've studied on. Furthermore, there's no other industries that have as much inefficiency and therefore opportunity as the music industry. If we can change the music industry in this way and we can grow the market share of indie artists, we can really make it a much larger industry overall. And if I have a part in that, if I'm able to impact that in any way, then I kind of cement myself in the pantheon of this industry growing much further than it actually has grown to at this point. And so that's why I do what I do. That's why we exist, is to empower indie artists, grow their market share in the industry, and grow the industry revenue overall. And so I'm Circa. I'm the founder and CEO of this here company, Indepreneur, and we essentially teach indie artists the basic business skills that any online business would need, with the hope being that when they grow their audience to a point where these third parties come sniffing around and say, let us help you take it to the next level, they can say, I don't actually think you'll do that, and I'm not interested. And that's it. If you found this video helpful in any way or insightful in any way, like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment. When I say leave a comment, I mean about what I talked about in this video. You know, it's nice to get comments where people say like the video was great or I learned a lot, but like I would love to continue the discussion in the comments below. And also I would love to make follow-up videos to specific parts of this that interested you. And then if you want to see more videos and you aren't subscribed yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell to get notified when we drop new videos. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.